Hello everyone, welcome back to DiabloCast, your Diablo 3 podcast. Here we keep you up to date on all things Diablo 3 related and share with you our thoughts and opinions on any recent news and events that take place in the Diablo universe. As always, I am your host, Dennis Force Duhamel, and with me as always, we've got Kevin Sixen Carlino.
Hey guys.
And Tyler ScyberDragon Milness.
How's it going, everybody?
Alright, so before we hop into things, how's everyone doing this week? Kevin, how are things with you? I understand you're all done school now, that's exciting.
Yep, I finished my last final yesterday, so I can play D3 beta all summer now.
Sweet, unless of course it doesn't start till after the summer. That'd be bad. And Tyler, you just got your AC fixed, so you must be nice and cool, huh?
Oh, nice and cool in here.
He's a cool guy.
He also just had his anniversary, as we talked about last week, so congratulations. Hope you had a wonderful time popping Cristal and whatever you do.
How did you know what we did?
Whatever you do on your anniversary. So anyways, this week's
me and
topics...
Dennis were just chilling in the window.
We've got...
We're watching. Alright, go ahead.
Creeper. So this week we've got three big topics that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be taking a look at the Diablo 3 beta, which was recently announced on the May 9th conference call. We're also going to be talking about traits in Diablo 3, and then the recent big reveal of the follower system. That's something that we had been questioning for quite some time. We are now finally confirmed that we're going to have followers in the game, and we'll go into a little bit of detail later in the podcast. But let's go ahead and start things off with our discussion of the Diablo 3 beta. So last week, I'm sure many of you had listened to, did do our live podcast during the conference call. This was the Activision Blizzard investor conference call. Most of it was just kind of financial things for the investors within the company. But during the tail end of it, they basically go with their projections and the upcoming plans for all three franchises, StarCraft, Warcraft, and Diablo. And the big exciting news in this was that we were announced that the third quarter of this year, which is July 1st to September 30th, we're going to be seeing a Diablo 3 beta, most likely. That's what they're planning on. That's what they're looking to do. Also, in addition to this, they did talk about the fact that they had just started the internal testing, which is it still considered alpha, or are we considering it the early stages of beta?
No, this is alpha. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we can consider this normal alpha.
Okay, so yeah, they just did start the internal testing. It's also, I guess, important to note that friends and family testing wasn't a part of this go around of this development for Diablo 3. It's something that they did typically do in the past. But in terms of the beta, again, we're going to be seeing it probably in the third quarter. Kevin, you're looking forward to this?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Like I said, I was hoping to spend my entire summer playing this D3 beta.
Yeah. And how about yourself, Tyler? Anything big on the horizon that would interfere with Diablo playtesting? Or are you going to be amped to just take 3 weeks of work off and sit down and enjoy your Hot Pockets, Mountain Dew, and Diablo 3?
Oh, if only I could. No, that'd be awesome. I am hoping that, again, my birthday is early in July, so I'm hoping we'll see it by then.
Now, in terms of the length of beta, we've talked about in the past how 6 months is what they're kind of shooting for. Now, Kevin, I know that you have had some basically interest, or you do have some knowledge about how prior betas have gone with Blizzard franchises. You mind explaining that a little bit further and how the beta is kind of related to the release and the internal beta and all that stuff?
So I think we should take a look at the most recent alpha beta that we've had knowledge of, and which is the World of Warcraft Cataclysm, and I was actually fortunate to take part in both the alpha and the beta. The Cataclysm alpha began early May, so I think it was May 3rd to be exact. And if the D3 beta or internal alpha, if the D3 internal alpha started last Monday, which would be May 2nd, then it's definitely possible we'll see an early December release, because we saw Cataclysm was released on December 7th, so it's something like 7 months and 4 days would be the exact time frame between the start of the alpha to the release date. So I mean, it's definitely possible that we can see a 2011 release, depending on how everything goes regarding alpha and beta.
Yeah, and that's something that people did have a question about. A lot of people were thinking, well, hey, if this doesn't start till July 1st, or God forbid September 30th, and they're planning on that quote 6-month beta, does that mean it starts from that point and pushes it into 2012? And I think just what we're trying to drive home to you guys is that isn't necessarily the case. It is very possible that 6-month beta is going to include the internal testing, which is going on right now and started just a little bit over a week ago, because they did during the May 9th conference call say it was the week prior. So right now it's pushing up on about 2 weeks.
Right. So basically when we talk about the 6-month beta, obviously we mean it's just an estimation. And like I said, the perfect example of that is the 7-month Cataclysm alpha beta length. So I mean, it's definitely possible. So keep your fingers crossed.
There you go. Now, any predictions from either of you as to when you think the beta may start? Tyler, do you feel like it's more likely to be on the opening end, the July 1st, or closer to September 30th, or somewhere in between?
I'm definitely guessing it's earlier. As Kevin said, usually, this alpha before they go into the beta is just a couple months. So I'm hoping that if it started at early May, then we're probably going to hopefully see it in early July as well.
Yeah, that seems. I don't know why I had trouble there for a second. I did actually want to go back just for a moment. I think we pretty much covered the basic news in terms of what the beta, how we're looking at it, the time frame, and all that. But I do want to talk, because I did touch on the fact that the friends and family was no longer part of this development cycle. Now, in terms of why that is, I guess my logical assumption would be that Blizzard feels like they're large enough now that they actually don't need to reach out to do this. Kevin, do you have any insight onto that at all?
Yeah, I would have to say there's two different reasons, and the first one is, which you just said, basically Blizzard is big enough to the point where they don't need to have an external alpha test. I mean, essentially it was so that way people could help them test, because they didn't have enough testers and probably couldn't catch everything themselves. Second of which is that MMO Champion went ahead and leaked everything on the Cataclysm Alpha the day of the alpha, and because they aren't an official Blizzard fan site, they really didn't have to worry about having any issues with Blizzard, because I mean, it's not like they were getting anything to begin with. So basically, a lot of the World of Warcraft fan sites were pretty angry because they weren't allowed to post anything about Cataclysm Alpha because it was under an NDA. So basically, MMO Champion sucked up every ounce of traffic during the alpha.
Yeah, and for any fan sites or any type of media outlet, that's something that can definitely be very frustrating to have to deal with when things get leaked and you technically can't do anything about it, and then all the viewers, all the traffic is going to this other site who just basically just doesn't give a crap and is just going to post whatever the hell they want because, they have no ties to the parent company. So that's definitely pretty interesting, and I guess that would make a lot of sense if they try to keep it as internal as possible. They have to worry certainly much less about issues like that arising. Obviously, things can still take place, but the concern is a little bit less. All right, so that pretty much does it. Again, the beta is going to be starting in the third quarter of this year. Now, just keep an eye out. We're going to be, of course, bringing you up to date whenever any new announcement does come out and we actually get a firm beta start date. And now we're going to go ahead and move right on into the trait system in Diablo 3. Just a little clarification for those of you who may not know. What traits are is it's essentially Diablo 3's version of passive skills. So you're going to have your active skills in Diablo 3, which are just known as skills. These are going to be a lot of your spells, your attacks, a lot of your abilities, maybe auras, things like that. But then any passive skills are going to be known as traits. And now the reason we're bringing up traits is because there's been a lot of recent information in terms of how the traits are going to work, what they're going to be looking like, and things of that nature. Now, the main information that we've gotten from Bashiok recently was just kind of the general concept and the idea behind traits and how they're going to work. The main thing that we're looking at is the fact that they didn't want traits to be boring. This is something that Bashiok has tried to inform us. They want it to be kind of weighty and feel like it's actually benefiting your character. So even if there are going to be stat passive increases, like percent increases, they're supposed to be big, like 50, 100% for each point for increasing damage to something or increasing one of your spells effectiveness, things like that. Now, we've also had some information as to the number of traits that we're going to be looking at. The way it's going to be working out is they're supposed to be getting 1 trait point for every 3 levels. So that's going to leave us with a total of 20 trait points once we do hit level 60. And then the last really big thing that he talked about was the fact that skill and trait points are actually only going to be given through levels. You're not going to be getting anything through quest or for completing certain achievements or things like that. So that's basically the wrap up. That's the major thing that we were informed here. Now, in terms of the trait system, I'm definitely really liking the way that they made this separation, and I like the fact that they're going to be focusing on certain things. Now, Tyler, in terms of the trait system, do you like the separation here, or would you prefer that the traits and stats were all just one big kind of skill tree like we've seen in prior RPG games?
No, I definitely like traits as a separate mechanic. I mean, it really kind of even though they separated it, it doesn't matter too much. I mean, you're getting both of them. The nice thing about it now is you're not having to make that decision of, do I want a passive skill or do I want an active skill? You get both regardless. And that's, to me, I think the best part of it is you're not making that decision.
Yeah, on that note, actually, I think it was the original build, or basically the original plan was to have a skill tree, and traits and skills weren't separated, I believe, right, Tyler?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So just double checking, right? So it was originally skill trees, and I want to say around 2009, just before the Monk was released. That was when they went ahead and redid everything, and they made it more of a skill pool instead of a skill tree. So it functions completely different because of what Tyler said. Now you don't have to worry about making that decision: do I want an active or a passive skill? Now you can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and to kind of go back to the point where we're talking about traits and how they want them to feel weighty, and you're not like investing. We only have 20 total trait points. Last we were informed, we're going to be looking at 20 total trait points in this system, and they want it to feel really heavy. So an example of this is a spell or trait called Prismatic Cloak. This is going to be for the wizard, and just the first level is going to increase the effectiveness of ice armor and storm armor by 100%. And that's got a total of 3 levels. This was basically the last time we were informed. So with maxed out points, it's going to be a total of 300% increase. I mean, that is huge, and that feels substantial. And Bashiok had mentioned these are kind of things they're gonna define your character depending on where and how you decide to spend your traits points.
Kind of going off of that, actually, a lot of people who do not like the auto stat system that they have, a lot of people are fearing that they won't get to customize their character the way they want to play him because of this. And I really think that's where traits are actually going to come into play. I mean, if you want to build a melee wizard, it's these traits that are going to help you build that character, not, extra HP or anything like that. Like you said, I mean, 300% to an armor boost skill for the wizard, obviously that makes that class focused on, closer melee stuff. So I really think that although people were upset about the auto stat system, if you can cater these traits to the way you want to play your character, this is where you're going to see the biggest diversity in play styles for each class.
Yeah, no, it's definitely pretty cool. I really like the fact that they're doing this. It's going to be really neat to find out some further information. We've got some names, and we've got kind of a general ballpark idea of a handful of traits, but we don't have full specification as to them all at this point in time. So, going to be looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of the trait system as well. I mean, kind of going back to Diablo II, this trait skill system makes builds for each character a hell of a lot more viable. I mean, in Diablo II, it was basically there were maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 builds per character that were actually viable. I mean, you could have those funny ones. Like I know I made like a medic healer kind of a thing as a paladin, but I mean that was a joke. I mean there wasn't really much of anything I could do. So with this new traits and skill system and even rune stones and stuff, there are just so many more possible combinations that we have at our disposal.
The only thing that worries me about the trait system is because they want these stats to be so huge so that they're that interesting that you want to choose them, is balancing these. I mean, I'm just worried that there's going to be 2 or 3 traits that are pretty much the must-go-tos. We have like that pound of flesh that helps you drop health gloves and the healing from them, and I don't see how, if it's raising it by 50, 100%, I don't know how people are going to choose not to use that one because it is so viable for the entire game.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. And then we've mentioned again that we have a vague idea of some of them. We've got some information in terms of the traits. I know that one trait specifically that Bashiok did mention in actually a blue post was talking about the lucky one that increases gold find by 10%. I mean, to me, this is something that I know I talked with you about, Tyler. That's something that I personally would never invest in, because obviously for me, a focus of probably all my characters is going to be PvP, and that's something that wouldn't help at all in PvP unless you get a chest with gold in PvP and it helps there. But even then, it's cool because there is that option. If you want a farming character. If you're building this specific character just for farming gold and magic find, then maybe you would get the lucky, and then maybe you just gem all of your gear and make sure you're wearing a lot of magic find gear, and you could have like a farming character. And that's the kind of thing that Diablo 3 is really trying to hone in on, and just Diablo in general. It's really all about customizing your character to your needs and your desires.
I've actually got 2 different things to say about that. The first one is, yes, I mean, if you plan to play PvP, on your PvP character, you probably won't want to waste traits trait points because, like you said, there's only 20 of them. So you probably won't want to waste trait points into this lucky trait. However, like you're also saying, that if you're going to need a character that can farm and get all the gear that you need for your character, for your PvP character, because I mean, there's no way you'll be one of the best players in PvP if you aren't always, if you don't have the best of the best gear. So right off the bat, you're going to have to make sure that you have the items and stuff. And as we know, gold is supposed to be the currency in the game. So the more gold you have, the more potential you have to get other items. And the second thing I wanted to say was that this could potentially be a pretty viable trait while you're doing the playthrough, because depending on how important gold really is, it might make or break how you play through the game. I mean, you might be able to go ahead and say not put 1 point in pounds of flesh and put a point in lucky, because now you can go ahead and buy better armor and stuff, so you don't have to worry about taking so much damage. So I mean, it kind of balances out and alleviates in different areas, I guess.
With that, I guess also we need to talk about, the ability to respec these trait points. We know skill points we will be able to, not a full reset, but there are ways to kind of change maybe a mistake, as Bashia kind of put it, more as a re-rolling a character. But I would assume the same would apply for traits. So maybe during your PvE playthrough, you're choosing that gold one, and then once you hit that top level and you're going strictly for PvP, then you kind of redo those traits to focus more on that.
And at that point, if you take gold while you're doing the playthrough, if you take lucky while you're doing the playthrough, you'll probably would have already made enough gold throughout the entire playthrough, normal, nightmare, and hell. You would have made enough gold to pay for the respec, so basically you don't lose anything. All you do is make more money off of gold, because, like Tyler just said, you can just respec at the end of the game once you're done.
Yeah, something else I expect to happen too. I mean, I know we've been talking about kind of an individual character having all these respec options. Given the fact, we're going to pull back to last week's podcast where we talked about how the fact that there's going to be no binding in the game. I mean, I 100% fully expect a good majority of players are going to have two characters, one for farming gold and gear, and then just one for PvP. And all you have to do is just trade all the crap that's good for your PvP character right on over to him. I mean, I know we have a shared stash now, so it's incredibly simple. You wouldn't even have to kind of worry about the trading system with that either. And that seems pretty reasonable to me. That seems like that's something that's definitely going to take place. Like, I'll have a character just for farming. He's going to have lucky. He's going to have magic find. And then all the sweet gear, I'm going to just transfer right on over to my PvP character. As long as he's max level, it doesn't really matter how I get the gear for him, as long as I just get it over to him.
Kind of building on that a little bit, maybe if we were to create our own guild, the three of us, so this is an example, if the three of us were in a guild, and now, I mean, guild support is definitely going to be in the game, it hasn't been announced yet. I want to say that I'm pretty sure that there will be a guild stash as well. I know that was something that was supposed to make it in Diablo 2. So basically, Tyler can go ahead and farm everything for us, stick it in the guild stash, and you and I can just we can just own in 2 vs 2 or 3 vs 3. I guess Tyler can tag along our PvP matches.
Glad I could be helpful for you guys.
Yeah,
thanks, buddy.
That seems fair. That seems fair to me. But I mean, I think this isn't like a revelation, but it just kind of popped in my head, and I'm pretty excited about that thought. I mean, because literally, what's going to happen? You hit level cap, and I guess unless there's like some sort of reputation thing, like I know WoW has reputation, you have to grind reputation for things. Unless there's a system like that, once you hit level cap, there's no specific reason why you would have to play that character exclusively, given the fact that there's zero binding. It would be so simple to just have a grinding character focus solely for PvE, getting gold, getting items, and then just trading it right over to the level 60 PvPer who's spec'd and everything else for PvP. I mean, does that seem reasonable, instead of having to bounce back and forth between respecs, to just have one grinding character?
Well, it's possible, yeah, but you also have to keep in mind that there's going to be some kind of PvE endgame. So I mean, it also depends on how you want to go about playing that. Are you just going to use your PvP character in the PvE endgame as well?
I mean, I don't see why you would have to, unless there's something that your character would only gain through doing these things himself. I guess my mindset here is that once you're at level cap with no binded gear, is there anything that a character can't just get from another character? I guess that's kind of the question, and that's obviously, we don't really know that at this point. There's speculation, but gear specifically, no, that's not the case. I do not have to have my one character who's PvP focused ever go into a grinding run, basically, or so, like bail runs, for example. That would never have to happen, since I could just toss it all right on over to my other guy.
I think that's a pretty good point, and I don't have anything to say about that. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'm probably gonna make a wizard and a demon hunter, and I'll probably PvP with my demon hunter maybe, and I'll just grind and farm and everything with my wizard, just because teleporter would probably make it a lot easier. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things that we are going to have to wait for. But right now, where I'm looking at it from, that seems like that's something that could be done, and to some quite effectiveness. Now, this is all going to change, obviously, if they have something, going back to example of WoW, if they have something like the reputation system, where your specific character will only get some sort of benefits, whatever they may be, from doing things themselves. But if it's just gear, then, like I said, there's no reason for that.
For myself as a PvE player, I was actually, that's one of the reasons why I liked the binding gear that they had originally, was that so players couldn't just mule all these items and trade them to other characters and just deck them out without having to put too much investment in that one character. But at the same time, I understand where you guys are at, and you want to spend your time playing PvP, that you won't have the time to do this, so it helps you guys out. But for myself, I kind of enjoyed it because it kind of forced people to play more PvE, but that's just because it's me and screw PvP.
Well, I mean, I guess, yes, it's not that character. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but even though it's not this specific character, so let me make it nice and simple. Even though my barbarian isn't doing the PvEing and my wizard is, I'm still spending the time on a character.
True.
You know what I mean? I mean, so, and given the fact that there are respecs, that this isn't even a necessity to have to use the two. But I think without having to gold dump, and then having, also having, what the frick is the word that I'm looking for? Having different options, basically, to being able to play two different characters is another reason to do it. But again, if you can just focus on one and then use another for something else, I think that's pretty cool. But again, the time investment is still there, whether it's on character A or character B.
I mean, it kind of all boils back down to how the end game content is going to work. I mean, yeah, stuff can't be bound as far as we know, but I mean, they have to have something up their sleeve. You have to give people some reason to play end game content. I can't see them just saying, okay, the game's over, now go make a new character, and we have nothing left for you to do.
Sure, and I mean, this is going to come back to the fact that there are still some endgame systems, some game systems that we're unaware of, and things that are still going to be released between now and the actual start of the beta, because we're expecting to see all of those systems before the beta starts. So that's just something we're just going to have to wait and find out. So I guess that's actually going to bring us right into our next major topic, talking about the systems in the game, because very recently, in fact, earlier today, we were informed that a brand new system is out. We're going to be looking at followers. Followers are going to be in Diablo 3. Mercenaries, whatever the hell you want to call them, Kevin. We're going to be seeing them. We're going to be seeing them in this game, and that is very, very exciting to me. And there was a release video, so just right off the cuff, I mean, let's go with you, Kevin. What do you think about this?
Yeah, just before we get into it too much, I just wanted to make it very clear that it was actually leaked from, I believe, the Korean Blizzard, and they put it up earlier than it should have been. So we're going to be hearing more about the actual announcement in the near future. So, all right, disclaimers aside, now we're getting into it. I'm actually really excited. Like I was saying last time, I really think that there would be some kind of mercenary system. I'm glad to see that we can now give them skills aside from just equipment. I like that we can pick from any one of the 3 mercenaries instead of having to get one per act, because obviously there's 4 acts, and one of the acts would have to be missing one. So I kind of like what they did here. At a quick glance, I like that it kind of boils back down to the original Diablo 1 classes. It's kind of like a throwback to them. The warrior, wizard, or warrior, sorcerer, and rogue. Sorry. I mean, overall, from what I've seen so far, I'm pretty happy with it. What do you think, Tyler?
I guess before I give my own opinion as well, I guess we should go into what the actual system is. Basically, they're the followers, kind of like the hirelings from Diablo 2. They'll follow you around. You can equip them, and as Kevin said, you can add skills to them now. And basically, I believe it's every 5 levels, it unlocks a new tier of skills, and you get to choose one from those. So you kind of get to customize your own follower and how you want them to play with you. With that, there are 3 different ones, like Kevin said. There's the Enchantress, who is basically a magic caster. The Scoundrel,
Which would be the Sorcerer.
The Sorcerer. The Scoundrel, who is the ranged physical, like the Rogue from D1. And the Templar, who's kind of the warrior from Diablo 1, who's going to be your melee person.
Even Paladin-esque, you would have to say, because there seems
Very
to
Paladin-esque.
there seems to be a lot of Paladin aura around him, if you will.
But I'm very excited about the system. Again, I play a lot of PvE, and this is something, that I had to rely on in Diablo 2 to help me complete some of the, quests and stuff and get to those harder difficulties. So I'm really excited that there's a lot more customization to them now, choosing not only play style but skill style and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that they turn out really well. I know a lot of people are kind of thinking you can rely on them too much, but I'm hoping that they kind of scale down their power a little bit, but increase their tactics, I guess, so that way you can't just sit back and let them kill everything, but at the same time they are very effective and help you a lot while you're playing through the game.
I mean, I would think that it's safe to assume that Blizzard is also going to go ahead and kind of give them a pretty intelligent AI, just like they did with the monsters. We know everything's going to be smarter in this game, so I think we can go out on a limb and say that followers are also going to be a bit smarter. Now, what you were just saying, it kind of people are going to have to rely on them a bit, or can rely on them a bit. I kind of feel like it turns every class into a summoning class, like I said, what was it, two podcasts ago when we were originally talking about this. So I mean, essentially every class can turn into a summoner class. And now I know you had something to say, Dennis. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say, this is still, again, fresh information, and we are hypothesizing some, but based on the video, there's a lot of things we can take for almost fact. We're going to say that, the actual full follower announcement's going to be coming sometime, I think early Friday morning, something like that is when we're going to expect it. So there's going to be a lot more information than what we talk about here. So if there's something that you know now and that we missed here, just be aware that we were just not privy to that information at that point in time of this recording. But, there is definitely a lot that we can talk about. There's a lot we can hypothesize when it comes to the follower system, and based off of what we've seen so far. In terms of gearing, let's talk about gearing really quickly. We know that there's a quick look. There was a quick glance, basically, at what looks to be the equipment slotting for our followers. And from what I could tell, it seems to be, there's a couple of rings, an amulet, a weapon slot, and then below that, there's all those skill slots. And then in addition to that, in the very bottom, you can see things like resistances, and then there's damage and life. Now, when it comes to actual gear, and I'm talking chest piece, boots, gloves, shoulder pads, helm, what do you guys think about that? Is that an option? Is that something that we just haven't seen in the video, or is that going to be they're going to be automatically geared and we don't have to focus on that as much as we do choosing their spells and abilities and all of that?
I don't think we're going to get that option. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, a lot of stats and kind of defining your characters come through gear in Diablo 3, but we also now have skill sets for them this time. So I think a lot of customization is going to come from that. And basically what they did was to cut back on, making this too immersive with these characters, is they cut back on armor and gave us skills instead, which I find a lot more interesting and can actually cater that playstyle a lot better than armor selection does.
I'm actually a little bit confused by this because, like you guys both just said, I'm not seeing armor and helmet or belt or gloves, boots, any of that stuff in here. But in the video, they kind of show like the progression of the character screen for each mercenary or follower, whatever you want to call it. And like in the preview of the character, kind of like a wardrobe thing where you can see what the character looks like with each piece of equipment, they show the character with different pieces of armor and gloves and boots on. So I'm kind of curious how this happens. I mean, if we don't have that kind of customization, is it something that maybe they gain with levels? So maybe like after they hit level 10 or level 20, they get cooler armor and boots and gloves and stuff?
I was actually just going to say that. Basically, I see it working similar to how the artisan system's going to work, where as you level the artisan, their shops get cooler looking and bigger and more items. I feel then if they're not going to allow us to, equip armor to make them look cooler, then yeah, it's basically just going to be by level. Every, 5 or 10 levels, whatever it is, that they kind of change into this new set of armor so they look, tougher and stronger. Just before we move on to anything past the armor and equipment, there's also another slot on the screenshots that's actually locked at 25, and we don't exactly
I
know
do see
what
that.
that is used for. I originally thought it was a helm slot, but I'm kind of second guessing that now just because that slot looks so much different compared to the rest of the armor.
Could it
So
potentially be for like mercenary charms, like a talisman kind of a thing?
it could be charms, runes, I mean, maybe just
Mm.
some other item drop that we don't even know about yet for them or something, but something special I feel goes in there that you get when you hit them to 25.
All right, very cool. So let's go a little bit further into the follower discussion. We know that the player cap is 4 players, and we know that if we were all to get followers, then we'd actually be looking at an 8 level cap technically if followers are included in the co-op play. I know there's some thought that maybe followers are only going to be available in single player, but let's take a little bit a further look into the possibility of followers in co-op, and then even we can look into the possibility of followers in PvP. Kevin?
I actually just want to clear that up real quick. As far as single player goes, there really won't be a single player. Essentially, what you'll be able to do is play Battle.net, but offline. It's not really single player. It's just offline mode of Battle.net, and basically everything will be completely the same. So I'm going to go out here and say 100% there will be no differences between offline mode and online mode, other than the fact that you can't track your achievements. Now, as far as what you were just saying goes, this was something that I actually mentioned also the last time we were talking about followers. Basically, what happens is if we all get followers, it doubles our party size, and it makes everybody. It gives us all the ability to rely on a summoning or a mercenary, whatever. So we can all now build different, make different builds of characters just purely based on what followers we use.
Going off of that, I know you've talked about these followers kind of making every class a summoner, and I kind of disagree with that basically because yes, now every class has some sort of AI mechanic that follows you around and does damage, but I feel the main thing that's different between these and summon classes is that summon classes you're focusing on your summons and keeping them alive or altering them in some way, like the zombie hound, doing the sacrifice and doing, watching those.
Mm-hmm.
But with the followers, I mean, they seem pretty self-reliant. A lot of them even seem to have skills that help them heal, and I'm sure picking up health orbs heal them as well, so you're not even having to watch their health necessarily like you did in D2 where you had to keep popping them potions. They seem pretty self-reliant. So for me, they don't feel as much as a summon as much as just another player playing with you.
Something else I wanted to touch on, because I know you just mentioned how it seems like these followers, based on some of the names of their skills in the different tiers, may have self-healing, but you also talked about picking up health orbs. I am very interested to see if a follower picking up a health orb is actually going to heal your character, because say you have a ranged character, let's take a wizard for example, and you pick up a Templar follower. Obviously, health globes, they fall when any NPCs in the game die, when any monsters or demons die. So that would be a very effective tactic to have a tank-like Templar in the midst of things, and then just have your ranged guy in the back, and you could just take the healing, because I know in PvP, when you pick up health globes, it heals your group. So again, if that could actually work, that would be just a general nice tactic to do as kind of a basic setup with a tank for your ranged player.
Right, just kind of piggybacking off what you just said. PvP, when you pick up health globes, it heals your party, and I wanna say that in PvE it functions the same exact way. So I mean, it would make sense for it to also heal your mercenaries, assuming that your mercenaries are technically in your party, depending on if that's how the game works. I mean, I would think it's safe to assume that they will also get healed by health globes, and I'm kind of curious now. I wonder if Blizzard programmed the AI to make them smart enough to say, okay, maybe somebody like the Enchantress, if, say, you're a barbarian and you have an Enchantress, I wonder if they'll make the Enchantress stop what she's doing, run over and pick up the health globe,
I was actually just wondering about that because there's a lot of times I feel that health globes are going to be actually really strategic on when you pick them up, and I don't necessarily want this AI character, walking around picking them all up when I have full health, when by the end of the fight I'm getting down to the bottom and this person has already picked up all my health globes. So I mean, with greater AI, there's always, the possibility that they can, I guess program them not to pick them up when you have full health. But at the same time, I could see a lot of occasions where you're getting upset with your person because they keep picking up health globes when you don't need them.
I mean, I could see Blizzard being smart enough I mean, if they can make the AI smart enough to go pick it up, they could just do a simple check and balance. Like, okay, if this player has like less than 10% health, I should go pick up the health globe or something like that. Maybe you can issue them orders. I mean, we really don't know yet, so maybe we can issue them like, okay, go pick up the health globe, or stop, don't go pick up the health globe.
Actually, we do know that you can't control them. Sorry, Kevin.
We do.
Yeah.
Once again, Kevin's theory is debunked. I do just want to quickly touch on what you had mentioned, Tyler, because I know you talked about the idea that health globes are going to be strategic in a sense in terms of when and how you pick them up, and not just the fact that, hey, I'm at 100%, dumbass follower, stop picking up all this crap because I don't need it yet. But I know that in the past we specifically talked about boss fights and the fact that given that, yes, healing is in the game and there's going to be some healing spells and abilities for the characters, it's still not a primary focus, and there isn't a healing specific class. So when we think about boss fights, when it comes to strategy and picking up health globes, I really feel like this is going to be a big mechanic in a good portion of boss fights. If you want boss fights of any kind of substance and length, healing will be required, and since health potions are on a cooldown, that means we're going to rely on health globes. So I definitely feel like a big mechanic in boss fights is going to be, you'll have this big battle with the boss, and maybe he's got a bunch of minions, and then at some point we can think of them in phases. During some phase of the boss fight, some health globes are going to drop down. So yes, it would be very frustrating if you were at 100% health and your freaking followers start picking up all the health globes in the middle of the boss fight, and you know that there's like about to be some crazy big AoE damage or something like that. You know what I mean? You know that post some point you're going to need it. So that's pretty interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how that even functions. But again, we're also, this whole discussion is operating under the premise that followers are even going to pick up health globes that will heal us. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's only other players pick them up, will heal the rest of the party, and followers won't even have that opportunity. Yeah,
I'm really kind of hoping that they hand out a lot more information than just this video, because I mean, essentially everything we know so far is just based on this leaked video that we've seen. So I'm hoping with the announcement they have like a short Q&A like they did with the crafting and artisans and stuff.
Yep, and again, I guess just one of those things that we're just going to have to wait and see. It is coming very soon, so we're going to find out some more information. It is even very likely by the time you hear this podcast that we're going to have the official word from Blizzard and some further in-depth information about this system. And at that point, you can expect some updates on Diablo fans, as well as I'll probably make a video to go further in-depth about the followers. All right, now we're going to look at each one of the followers specifically. We were able to discern from the video all of the names of all the different spells on the 4 tiers that were present in the UI that we had seen there. So we're going to start with the Enchantress first. Tier 1, the spell names were Disorient, Forceful Push, and Charm. In Tier 2, there was Decoy, Reflect Missiles, Powered Armor. Tier 3 was Focus Mind, Amplify Damage, Lower Resistance. And Tier 4, we had Energize, Energy Bomb, and Guidance. Alright, so those are all of the skill choices available for the Enchantress from what we know so far. So taking a look at that list, Kevin, any kind of initial thoughts or insight as to the different types of abilities and what the Enchantress is going to be able to do?
Kind of at a first glance, I kind of see the Enchantress as like a mixture between the Necromancer and the Assassin from D2, and then kind of like a little bits and pieces of the Mage and Warlock from World of Warcraft. At the first 2 tiers kind of look like they're more for like escaping and crowd control, as you can see by like Disoriented, Charm, and Decoy and stuff like that. And then it kind of looks like these last 2 tiers, as she levels up more and more, are kind of used more for damage output. So I kind of feel like she's going to help you, say, live. So basically she's going to help you stay alive at the beginning of the game, whereas more towards, I don't know, maybe it'll be the mid-game, end game of normal is when she'll be more focused on helping you kill shit.
Sure, and also based on the list, except for possibly Energize, it seems like there isn't a lot of spells that are actually going to assist your character. Energize maybe has that possibility of being some sort of regen or something like that, but besides that, I'm not seeing a whole lot of things that look like they're going to be doing a lot of healing from the Enchantress. So how about you, Tyler? Just initial looks at the skill choices. What do you think about the Enchantress?
I like that she has so many crowd control abilities. I think, it would seem like there's obvious pairs with each of these followers to certain classes. But at the same time, you'd figure if you're melee, then you're choosing the Enchantress because she's ranged. But at the same time, you could choose the Enchantress with another range because she actually has all these skills to help you crowd control. So if you're a wizard and you want the Enchantress, you'll be able to use her as well and still be able, it's not locking you into any certain follower, I guess, is basically where it's coming down to.
That's definitely true. And I mean, if you were to even go and take the Witch Doctor, she could go ahead and split everything apart for you, and then you could just have all your minions kind of just rip it all apart.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some just general that seem like assistance skills from her, looking at amplify damage and lower resistance specifically. Yeah. Those two things are clearly going to be debuffing your enemies, and that's obviously going to be a good thing kind of for any class. All right, so now moving on to the Scoundrel, we'll go ahead and take a look at their 4 tiers and kind of give you our initial thoughts and opinions on that. Looking at Tier 1, we've got Crippling Shot, Rapid Fire, and Poison Bolt. Tier 2 is going to be Bandage, Dirty Fighting, Scavenge. Tier 3 looking to be Power Shot, Multi-Shot, Rain of Gold. Tier 4, it looks like Anatomy, Black Market, and Vanish. So definitely a mixed bag here. It looks like there's a lot of kind of damage spells, but in addition to that, we've got things like Bandage, Scavenge, Rain of Gold, which looks like they're going to be things that are going to be assisting your character kind of for a PvE focus, getting more gold. Scavenge, I'm not quite sure what that would specifically be. I don't know what to think about that right now, but what about you, Kevin? Any initial thoughts for the Scoundrel?
As far as Scavenge goes, maybe it'll be something like Find Item or Find Potion, the skills that the Barbarian had in Diablo 2. Basically, you'd go to a corpse and use the skill on the corpse, and then it would pick up either an item or a potion. So maybe Scavenge can do something along those lines, and it's kind of just the two of them combined. Otherwise, I kind of feel like the Scoundrel is exactly what he should be, like an archer, but he kind of also seems like he is like a thief, kind of like a dirty kind of guy. Obviously, by the dirty fighting skill that he's got going on in Black Market and stuff like that, I kind of feel like he's a shady character that kind of just wants to hang out in the back. I kind of like where this is going.
Sure, yeah, you would. And it's actually pretty interesting because the first tier here for the Scoundrel looks to be damage focused. Crippling Shot, that's maybe some sort of a snare, but Rapid Fire and Poison Bolt obviously increasing the damage there of the Scoundrel. So if you're looking for a little more DPS from the get-go, looks like the Scoundrel may be your kind of initial choice. Now, how about you, Tyler? Give us some initial thoughts on the Scoundrel.
I kind of have mixed feelings with the Scoundrel. At first glance, I just feel he's way too similar to the Demon Hunter. I mean, focusing purely on, ranged attacks, I just don't see how he's going to differ from playstyle too much from the Demon Hunter. But then when you actually look at his skill choices, that's where he gets interesting. And Black Market, Rain of Gold, Scavenge, like you said, all these things seem to be more, I don't know, passive or not so, shooty, but definitely that's where I'm having this conflict of interest with him. Is I feel he's really interesting, but at the same time, he seems way too familiar to the Demon Hunter.
I think that would be perfect for people like both you and I. So, I mean, if I want to play a wizard and a demon hunter, and I've said this since the demon hunter was released, I really don't know who I should play the most. Now I can play a wizard and have my demon hunter follower as the Scoundrel, basically.
And going on with the Scoundrel, a lot of this may be speculation. Like you said, we only have this one video to go off of. But I noticed in the video when they show the Scoundrel, he actually is using multi-shot, which with what looks like Poison Bolt. Now, it might just be the weapon that's giving that, but there's definitely a multi-shot. He's shooting out 3 arrows at once, and there's green tips to each of the arrows. So it would be interesting, actually, if these skills kind of tie in together. I mean, if you can do like a multi-shot crippling shot, for crowd control and stuff like that, it definitely adds an extra layer of skill choice to the characters.
I think that would definitely make sense, and I mean, again, looking back at these screenshots, how they're all highlighted at once. So I mean, in this one, for example, he has crippling shot and he has multi-shot together. So I mean, maybe that, like you said, those tie in together. And the other one, he has rapid fire and power shot. So maybe he shoots fast. He shoots fast and hard. There you go, Dennis. There you go, Dennis. You play with that one.
All right, so I'm just going to ignore that, and we're going to move on to the final follower that was revealed in this video, and that's going to be the Templar. The Templar is looking to be the warrior, barbarian, paladin mix type of character, your big old tank, but also seems like he has the ability to heal, so very interesting. Let's take a look at his skills. Starting in Tier 1, we're looking to see Charge, Heal, and Protection. Tier 2 is Guardian, Intimidate, and Loyalty. Tier 3, Intervene, Inspire, Tribute. Tier 4, Empathy, Onslaught, and Knight. I am seeing a lot of Paladin-esque spells and abilities behind the Templar. Personally, Kevin, based on this list of skills, what are you thinking about the Templar?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. It really reminds me of the World of Warcraft Paladin, and basically, just because of how he's structured as far as these skill choices go. I mean, heal and protection aren't those two of the three different skill? I don't even know tiers that you can go with it for the World of Warcraft Paladin, Dennis. I know you played a lot.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting. That is in Tier 1, so it seems like from the get-go for the Templar, Blizzard's trying to enforce, hey, this guy is going to protect you, he's going to help you out, he's your buddy.
He kind of has he differs a lot from the Scoundrel from the looks of it. I mean, right off the bat, you have some loyalty, you have Knight, Guardian, protection, and then whereas the Scoundrel is dirty fighting, black market. So, I mean, I like that they have like a nice distinction between all these characters. Obviously, these two are male, and the Enchantress is female. Not that there's a problem with that.
All right, so Tyler, how about you? What are you thinking about the Templar?
Going off a quick tangent real quick with what Kevin just said, what little news we had of the followers before from Leonard Boyarsky was that each of these characters do have their own story now in this new game, so a lot of that I'm sure is going to come through with quests and how we interact with these characters and where we meet up with them. But definitely, it definitely shows that they're putting more thought into these than just, hey, look at this person shoots arrows, hire them and let them help you. But as far as the Templar itself, I'm really excited about this one. As someone who plays a lot of single-player PvE, it's obviously really useful to have that tank character, especially because I plan on playing the Witch Doctor and the Demon Hunter, so I definitely need that person who's going to be up front and in the fight. But yeah, his skill choices definitely, I mean, they obviously are really big party buffs, which is what we're looking for with the Paladin, and I'm sure he's going to help all of us stay alive. I'm sure it's going to be one of the mainstays for every group to have a Templar.
Sure. Something else interesting to know, I know you mentioned, hey, I'm PvE focused. I'm going to want something like a Templar to help me go through my PvE experience. I'm almost going to think personally that that's kind of a yes and no kind of thing. Yes, he's going to help you make things easier with things like protection, things like heal, guardian. What else does he have here? Intervene seems like that would be very helpful as well. Those things seem like they're going to assist you. But if we go back quickly and look at the Scoundrel, I mean, in terms of PvE, things like Rain of Gold, I mean, and Scavenge, those both seem like those are things that are going to help you acquire better loot. So even though something like the Scoundrel may not protect you as well in PvE, it's definitely going to assist you on the other end in terms of rewards that you get for it. Whereas the Templar, just based on the names of these skill choices, doesn't seem like you're going to be, aside from getting healing and protection, doesn't seem like you're going to be getting many more rewards when he's in the party, at least just based off this list here.
Well, and I think that's what's so great about these, again, is they really made these characters, as focused as they are, at the same time they're really well-rounded so that any player can use them for a certain amount of skills and what they want out of them, and you're not forced to choose one, because you want someone to help you in PvE or you want one to help you, do a certain thing. Is that they all kind of are able to assist you in their own ways, but at the same time, it looks like, that they're viable no matter which one you choose.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And I mean, just from us kind of arguing about what class should use what, I mean, I am really happy that they did that, because now I don't feel like I'm forced to, I mean, as a wizard, I don't feel like I'm forced to use the Templar or the Scoundrel. If I wanted to, like Dennis was saying, I could go ahead and use the Enchantress for that crowd control ability, and I could just go ahead and take everything out while she's taking care of the crowd.
Yeah, there you have it. So this is kind of basically our initial thoughts and opinions based on that video that was released. Once more, I'm going to reiterate the fact that we're going to be getting some more information about this early Friday morning, most likely. Now, one last thing that I do want to touch, we're talking about the follower system. I know in this video, it released the 3. What are we thinking? Are we thinking that this is it? Are there going to be more? Because I know in Diablo 2 there were more than just 3 options when it comes to mercenaries and followers, if you will. So is this it? Is this what we're looking at? Or do we think there are going to be some more revealed once the game does actually go into beta and gets released?
Relating this back to the follower system as a whole, so I mean, if you take a look at the artisans, there are also only 3 artisans. I kind of feel like either with an expansion or maybe more endgame content, they'll release an extra artisan and an extra mercenary to go along with that endgame stuff. Because if you remember, each of these artisans they're also kind of very distinct in what they do, similar to how we have these mercenaries or followers. Sorry, I feel like as the game expands, we're gonna have more opportunity for expansion in the follower system as a whole. Also,
I hope you're really happy now, because now I'm disappointed that there's not a summoner follower. I want some wicked follower who's going to be able to summon a couple minions to fight as well, and just play that with my witch doctor and just have tons of things running around the screen killing for me.
I want a follower that summons other followers that summon other followers. That's what
how sick would that be? And then we can have an artisan that makes artisans.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why not? So there you go, guys. That's a basic recap. We're probably going to be talking about this a little further next week's podcast once we do actually have some more information. But that I guess that pretty much does it for now. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about this week's poll. But before we do, let's go ahead and wrap up the poll from last week. All right, last week's poll was what places would you like to see in Diablo 3 and its potential expansions? The top 4 choices were Heaven, Hell, Yora, and Ariat Crater, and the Dreadlands. So those are places that you guys voted for and decided that you would like to most see in the game and its potential expansions. So thank you once again for voting. And now, Tyler, why don't you go ahead and give them this week's poll?
Yeah, for this week's poll, we're basically covering what was talked about in the May conference call, and that is beta's release. In the conference call, it was said that they are planning for a Q3, which is July 1st through September 30th. That is their plan. They're still planning on a 2011 release day is what they're pushing for. But, of course, as we all know, Blizzard is known for their delays. And if you actually check out the poll on DiabloFans.com, Magistrate actually wrote up a good article about, things that have had announced dates and been delayed and stuff like that. So, basically, we just want to know, when do you think the beta will actually start?
There you have it. So that's going to be this week's poll, and what you're going to want to go ahead and do is go to DiabloFans.com, make sure you sign into your account, and then you can vote on the right-hand side of the front page. And that about does it for this week's poll. Now we're going to go ahead and go into some community questions. All right, this week's first question is coming from John. John asks, is enchanting going to be random, or will we be able to choose from a list of enchants? Will we be able to enchant items multiple times? If not, can we replace the enchant, or will we have to wait for a new piece of gear? Tyler, do you have any insight on this, being our PvE resident expert?
A lot of this is basically guesses off of information that we do have. We don't know a lot about enchanting or the Mystic Artisan in general, but I would assume enchanting is going to work very similar to crafting or to smithing, and a lot of that is basically that you have some control, but at the same time, to be Diablo, that there are some random elements to it as well. So I'm guessing that with enchants, you're basically choosing a base enchant and what you want for your gear, and then there will be maybe 1 or 2 random enchants that go along with it. As far as enchanting the same thing multiple times, I don't see why they would limit you to that. I'm sure you can, if you change your mind and want a different enchant and you want to pay for it and get the materials for it, go ahead.
All right, there you have it. Now, next question is going to be coming from another Tyler besides the one here. He asks, how does dying work? Tried looking in the wiki, only found that something told me about death animation, and then he asks, how would followers, when they die, how would that work as well? Now, this is kind of going to be speculation in terms of the followers, but dying specifically, I know that that's coming from checkpoints. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah, so basically once you die, you automatically get respawned at the last checkpoint you hit.
Now, in terms of the followers, if we base it off a D2 experience, we'd have to repurchase them. Do you guys think that there's going to be another method? Do you think the followers are just going to stay with us permanently? They'll respawn when we respawn, or are we going to have to buy them back, essentially, again?
I kind of don't think that... I'll go
Kevin.
first. I kind of don't think that we're going to have to purchase them, because I guess this is where the distinction comes in. They aren't actually mercenaries to the point where we have to pay for their services. But I kind of feel like they're going to be added in to quests or something like that. So maybe we should get them similar to how we get artisans. So after we complete a quest, they offer us our services in return. So basically, I'm assuming this, that they're going to be following us in the caravan. Tyler can clear that up, right, Tyler?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Okay, so I mean that's safe to assume, and basically when we die, I'm sure they'll die and respawn with us. But if they were to die, I mean I would have to say that there should be some kind of automatic respawn, because I mean they can't just be dying, because I mean, like, what if Leia died? I mean, I don't think that wouldn't really work out too good.
Was that a Star Wars reference?
Yes. Yeah. Hand shot
No,
first.
just with the followers dying, I don't know exactly how they're going to explain it lore wise, but I'm sure, like Kevin said, they're going to pop back up in our caravan. We're going to have to go back there, and there's going to be some penalty for them dying. There's no way they're just, oh, come back and get us, and we'll help you again. I'm sure there's some gold cost to it somehow, some way, but that's what I would assume.
All right, next question comes from Josh asking if there's going to be ladders and ladder resets. The answer to that is no. We've talked about this in the past. Ladders are not a part of what we're looking to have in Diablo 3 with the Battle.net 2.0 system. Next question coming from Jimmy. Has there been any talk of clan support or anything along those lines? Kevin?
Basically, clan support is guaranteed to be in Diablo 3 just because it's going to be supported by Battle.net 2.0. As far as what it's going to, like what support they're going to offer, they'll have like a clan channel for everybody in your clan that I'm sure you'll automatically join. Otherwise, everything else is still up in the air.
All right, and then the final question we're going to be answering this week is coming from Voidy, and Voidy asks, aside from permanent death, what are there any other features of hardcore mode that make it stand out? Do you think Blizzard will include hardcore achievements? So we obviously know permadeath is part of hardcore. It's not. I almost said parkour. It's not necessarily more difficult. Aside from obviously if you die, you're dead forever. But I mean, in terms of the gameplay itself, you're going to be playing through the normal modes just like everybody else. In terms of achievements, I would almost expect that. Tyler, what do you think? Hardcore achievements, they're going to be there?
Yes, they will be there. Bashiak has said that there will be incentives for playing hardcore. They're not going to be sort of anything really in-game. It's going to be more through Battle.net and your characters. There's going to be like either a special little icon on your character so people know you play hardcore or something like that. But as far as in-game, there's not going to be anything else. But there's definitely incentives, to show people that you do play hardcore.
Right, so basically those intangible rewards that we were kind of alluding to when we were talking about the PvP system a couple weeks ago. And before we wrap this up, I just wanted to remind everybody that the All Your History series from Machinima has been completed. They released episodes 3, 4, and 5 over the last couple weeks. We've got a little write-up on it on Diablo fans. So basically, episode 5 is what you'll want to check out for Diablo fans, because it kind of talks about Diablo 3 from the Blizzard North days and a bunch of other games. So I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. Other than that, 15th batch of screenshots was also released. And that should be it.
All right, so that pretty much does it for this episode of DiabloCast. Thank you guys, as always, so much for listening. Stay tuned next week as we get a little bit more information about followers and possibly some other news and announcements released between now and then. So for Kevin and for Tyler, this has been Dennis. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next time.
All right, take it easy, guys.
See you next time.
Follower system looks pretty awesome. Love how they stuck the
Archetypal.
Archetypal? That's a word?
Octopus?
Yeah. Warrior Mage. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Warrior Mage Rogue. That makes sense. I am...
Hey guys, you're kinda weird. Dennis, would you stop eating?
What?
Dude,
Would you
Dennis
stop
is walking
eating?
around eating everything, and I haven't even eaten
know.
breakfast yet because I thought we were going to do this podcast like an hour
Dude,
and a half
it's
ago.
4:50 here and I haven't eaten anything yet.
That's bad. It's 2 o'clock. I'm usually eating lunch around now. Breakfast, I mean. Whatever.
I've usually eaten a giant bowl of pasta by now.
I would like a giant... Oh, yeah. Pasta's for me, buddy. You CeeLo Brown.